because Rob's going to be a sponsor of this program. So Rob, maybe you could just tell us what you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate that, Robert. Hello, everybody. John, thanks for joining. Excited to hear about the book. I'm with the Cernal Company. We own office and retail properties throughout Metro Detroit, and always looking to hear what Dr. Pasick is up to and his wonderful guests. So thanks for having us.
Well, thank
you for sponsoring, Rob.
I'm going to start with a few cutie stories with John. So John and I met probably about 1989, and not John the writer, but John the artist, because he was making corporate, I guess, what do you call them, caricatures, John? Is that right?
Yep.
At the art fair. I think it was on State Street. So right. I started chatting with him, and I don't know if he did my caricature, but we just talked, and I said, well, what, tell me about yourself, as I usually do with people. And he said, well, I'm actually a writer, and I'm in the writers workshop, writers program, master's program at U of M. Correct, John?
That's about right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, well, that's interesting. I've been working on a book, and I really could use some editing. So John helped. He edited a couple of my books. My first books in 1990s, early 90s. So one was Men in Therapy. Another one was Awakening from the Deep Sleep. And John, I'm in a process of reawakening the Men from the Deep Sleep, because I'm revising that book. So I might need you again for that process. And then I think John was at a very crucial pivot point, because he was accepted into law school at the University of Michigan. Is that correct, John?
The time is exactly right. Fall of '89. Rob, okay. I don't know what's going to get you, but it's not your memory. Good job.
So he had to make this decision, and I think he put off law school. He was able to put it off for a year, and he's been writing the law school ever since, putting it off one more year at a time. So John may yet become a lawyer, but I'm kidding. He's full in as a writer and has been extremely successful. He has written multiple books. First couple were sports oriented, and then he wrote a book about where was the disasters? It was Nova Scotia, right, John?
It was the Great Halifax Explosion. That one's still selling pretty well. It's the biggest man-made explosion until the A-bomb. Yeah. And not only do Americans know about it, not that many Canadians know about it, amazingly, modern Canadians. 1917.
Got thumbs up on that one too. Yep. So how many of you have read The Great Halifax? Anybody else on it? Yeah, very good. John, you got a fan club here this morning.
I'll take it.
And John has gone on to great heights in writing and in hockey as well, not as a player, John, but as a coach. So hockey was my sport when I was a kid, so I was really excited to see this new book come out. I know a lot of kids that I've worked with in therapy who are athletes, and John has tuned into them quite well. So I'm going to turn things over to John. And John, I think the program is you're going to talk for half an hour, and then as people are going along, if you have comments or questions, please put them in the chat, and then I'll call on people for the second half to ask John questions. And if there's any technical problems, whatever, you could also put that on chat. And I think we'll go from here. So John, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Pasick. Yes, old friends now, Rob, for 33 years. I guess that qualifies, huh?
Yeah.
So we were puppies back then, but in hindsight. But no, Rob's success, by the way, was a great inspiration to me. I met him when I was 24, 25, as he says, when I was drawing cartoons in front of Bivouac on T-shirts and so on for the art fair. And Rob has got a great knack of chatting people up, of course, wants to get to know them in easy style. And so, yeah, I started helping him out with those two books. And then you see Rob with those ideas, get on the Today Show and all kinds of big stuff. You realize, okay, a local guy can do this. And that was inspiring to see what he did with that. And of course, Leaders Connect has been running well for a long time. So it's fun as well. And the list of people you've gotten here is pretty amazing. So great company there. So yes, so the background is the book, in case you don't have it, here it is. By the way, I often don't have my book with me during one of these things, which is I'm a crappy marketer. So, which reminds me, Let Them Lead by Bacon.com. I've got a podcast on leadership. You've had the Ford CEO, Jim Hackett, on there, and a bunch of others. Ari Weinsweg, well known to Rob, of course, and others. So that's the book. Check that out, the website. The podcast is fun. But yeah, the story goes back to 2000. I just left the Detroit News in 99. And by the way, my record, Rob, is I went to Michigan Law School literally for 5 minutes. You don't get any credit for that, it turns out. But the good news is if you return your books within half an hour, you get a full refund from Ulrichs. And those books are expensive. So that was a crucial decision right there. That was a make or break one right there. So there we go. But anyway, more on that. If you have a follow-up question, I'll get into that one. But we'll dive into this. So in 2000, Ann Arbor Huron High School, my alma mater, home of the River Rats, of course. The hockey team was 0-22-3. For you non-sports fans out there, the 0 is where the wins go. Okay, so 22 is the losses, 3 is the ties, the saving grace. They had not won a game in a year and a half. They had not won a league game in 3 years. It's probably the toughest league in the state with Trenton and Catholic Central and other great teams. So the parents were talking about leaving the league. So was the AD. Talking about going independent. Talking about even bucking the program down to club status, which at that point you're done. I was on the team 20 years earlier in 1982. Not a great player, as Rob pointed out accurately, but the team was good. We were a Final Four team. We had Brad McCaw. He ended up being a star at Michigan, top 10 scorer all time. A few other college players in that team. So it bothered me to see the team like this. There's some website called usahockey.com that ranks every team in the nation, which is crazy. We don't play all the teams in the state, let alone the nation. But nonetheless, out of 1,256 teams nationwide, that website had Ann Arbor Huron ranked 1,256. That is dead last. That's impressive. So not a bad team, but the worst in America. And particularly insulting to me and my pride as a Huron alum, they had teams from California ranked ahead of us. Like, man, we don't surf. We have ice and snow. This is what we do. So that was bothersome too. So what do? They hire the worst player in school history, yours truly, to coach them. And that is not false modesty. I can prove this empirically. If you guys like numbers, I still hold the record, not bragging, just saying. For the most games in a Huron uniform, 86. I played for all 3 years, all I could play back then. Every game, dressed from all. With the fewest goals, 0. And that cannot be broken. You can't play in the most games possible and score no goals, and 0 cannot be beaten. All my Brad McCaw, all those guys, the records have been broken, not mine. So there we go. So actually, it's a family record. I hold it with my brother, who was also on the team and also failed to score. But as he likes to point out, he played goalie. But hey, we've all got excuses. So there we have it. So worst player in school history, worst team in America. Yes, this is the combination that will definitely bode well for success. And the parents apparently agreed because the vote for the finalist for the job came down to me and another guy from Grosse Ile, and he won 4-2, and that should have been it. And who was against me? The incoming captain, one of the parents, the athletic director, Jane Bennett, a great friend of mine, my former teacher in 8th grade. She voted for the stranger, okay? And her secretary. These are 4 people you don't want against you if you're going to get the job. For me were Rod Sorge, our legendary trainer, and one of the other parents, Steve Sheldon, who knew me from the beer leagues of hockey. And those 2 would not take no for an answer. So they kept on hammering the other 4 till finally one of them flipped their vote. Jane Bennett did. God bless her. Still good friends. So it's 3-3. And Arthur Williams, the principal, picks me because I went to Huron. He didn't know anything about hockey, but that's how you get the job. And the parents were pissed. The players were pissed. So now you got worst player in school history, worst team in America, and they don't want you. So there's a wonderful thing to recruit to. When I give a lot of talks these days to corporations about recruiting, I start with that. It's like, you got problems recruiting? I had worse. So what do? You get help. The first thing leaders who are not going to make it don't do is get help. Get help. Get all the help you need. People think when they become leaders, they can't show any weakness. They think they can't show any vulnerability. They can't seem anything other than omnipotent and omniscient. And you guys know what those words mean, of course. And those are big mistakes. And when I see a leader like that, it's usually a new leader. Young or old doesn't matter. But a new leader, 45, 50, 25, doesn't matter. When I see that leader is going to go down, there's been no safety net to catch him because you have no friends along the way. So get help. Help for me came from Al Clark, my mentor at Culver Academies in Indiana. A quiet guy, Phi Beta Kappa math major out of New Hampshire, University of New Hampshire, from Thunder Bay, Ontario. He was drafted by both the NHL and the WHA. Blew out both his shoulders, so he couldn't play. So becomes going to become a dentist. Culver lures him down there. He starts the program with an outdoor rink and 12 Hispanic kids who had never skated before. So he buys them skates in South Bend, Year 3, they're state champs. Year 4, they're state champs. Year 5, they're state champs. 8 straight years of state champs. Till finally the state said, you can't send your A team down here anymore. So they send their B team, which they now have. They win the state title too many times. They can't come either. And now they have 3 boys teams and 3 girls teams, and they're nationally ranked every year. 25 NHL draft picks, 9 NHL players out of the cornfields. This guy's amazing. Math department chairman and not a yeller or screamer, unlike me. So amazing guy. And I said, okay, Al, what do I do? And he said, the first thing you've got to do is to make it special to play for Huron. I said, well, we're already the worst team in America. That's pretty special. He said, no, the easiest way to make it special is to make it hard. The easiest way to make it special is to make it hard. And that sounds crazy. It's paradoxical. It's the exact opposite of what everyone else was telling me about this generation. Then, of course, millennials, now Gen Z, same stuff, though. They're lazy, they're selfish, they're entitled, they won't work hard, blah, 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 blah. And he said, look at the Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs, hardest job in the world. It pays $55,000 on average. And guess what? They take 6% of those who apply. That's how in demand it is to be a Navy SEAL. And they don't cry about it being hard. They brag about it being hard. That's what they're selling. They're not selling a salary. They're selling a mission. Big difference. Peace Corps, same thing. All right. You have to get a college degree, a rigorous interview process. And if you get the job, and only 1 out of 6 get the job for the Peace Corps, they send you to the poorest places in the world and pay you a few $100 a month. And they only take 1 out of 6 because they're selling a mission, not the salary. So that's what you're selling. You're selling a mission. So, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So my mission was simple. I sent letters out to all the incoming players before I'd met any of them and said, congratulations. You are trying out for the hardest working high school hockey team in the entire state of Michigan. And I meant it. And then I also said in there, our goal is nothing less than to win a state title, which Huron has never done. And I said, it's not going to be this year. I'm not crazy, but it'll be sooner than you think. And when it happens, that team will invite you back to give you a standing ovation at their banquet. So those are our goals. Hardest working team in the state, a state title. As Daniel Burnham said, who created Modern Chicago, he said, make no small plans. They lack the power to stir men's souls. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. The goals should be scary. The goals should be daunting. And that's how you get people inspired. Every player came out, and our workouts were brutal, and I was part of them. We're in the weight room, we're in the track 3 days a week, every week for 4 straight months before tryouts even began. Nobody does this, not then, certainly. And all of us puked on the track at some point or other. Sorry about your breakfast, including me, including assistant coach Michael Appridge. Not one player quit. These are voluntary workouts. I cannot make you come by state law. All right. So if you got something else to do, work at Arby's, go to summer camp, lie on the couch, I can't do anything about it. Not one player quit. I was not expecting that. So right there, we've got this generation figured out wrong. So these guys all kept coming. And then late August, and you guys know Michigan weather. When I'm speaking about this around the country, I've got to explain how Michigan weather works or doesn't work. You guys already know. Rains cats and dogs that morning, flood conditions almost. That afternoon at 12:30 when we're on the track, it's 93 degrees, blazing hot, and humidity is through the roof. And it's so hot that steam is coming off the track. So much steam that I say, gentlemen, look down the football field at the goalposts. Can you see them? And we look down there and you can't because the air is too wiggly to make them out. I said, that's right. This is the hottest hour of the hottest day of the year, and we're lucky to be here. We're lucky that it falls on Wednesday and not Tuesday or Thursday. If we could make it hotter, I'd make it hotter because I'm crazy. We can find out what we have here. We're not going to whine about it. We're not going to cry about it. We're going to brag about it, and we're going to set every record we've got on this track. Who's with me? And by then, they're all into it, and yeah, except for a newbie, a 9th grader, been there about a week. He grumbles something. And that's when our captain, Mike Henry, great friend of mine, great leader, amazing captain, who had voted against me initially, by the way, but not without reason. He turns to the kid and says, hey, you play for Huron, and it's harder over here. I said, yes, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And not from me, but from them. And Al Clark told me this would happen. He said, if they know you've got to do things that not everybody would be willing to do just to get on your team, all right, then with a little encouragement, they will spread the culture themselves. And now you have a culture. If it's me versus them, it's not going to work. So Henry says this. I loved it, and everyone else rallied behind that. That becomes a sign on our locker room wall. You play for Huron, and it's harder over here. That's our rallying cry. So that's our culture. We're off and running. Season starts in November. We win the first 3 games in the first week. In 1 week, we had tied the total number of wins of the 2 previous seasons combined. So chapter 1 is titled, as my dad said, "When you're on the floor, you can't fall out of bed." So my dad is not a motivational speaker, by the way. So that's a good one. And we're going nuts with this. We've got to play almighty Trenton at the end of that week. They've won 14 state titles. They've been runner-up probably as many times. They've won state titles at all levels. They've got dozens of banners hanging from the rafters. I always told my players, don't look up because it'll freak you out. And it never worked. Once you say don't look up, they all look up and they all freak out. Final score is 13-2. And I forgot to tell you, we only had 2 rules in a team. The more rules you make, the more they want to break them. Don't make a bunch of rules. A.G. Edwards, by the way, has got a great rule about ethics. And the rule is we can fix anything but a lie. And the entire employee handbook is do the right thing, period. That's how you do it. All right. If you don't know what it is, call central office in St. Louis. They'll tell you what it is, but you already know. So simple. We had 2 rules. Work hard, support your teammates. That's it. Everyone knows what that looks like. Everyone's in control of those things. Everyone can define those things for themselves. And no one can argue that either one's not important. Is it not important to work hard? How are we going to do this without working hard? All right. Is it not important to support our teammates? Who does not want to be a part of a team that supports their teammates like that? So we only had 2 rules. We shouted that back and forth every day, every workout, every practice, every study table, you name it. That was always part of our mindset. So we're doing that. And then so after this game, 13-2, I'll remind you, this is ice hockey, not football. All right. This is not 2 touchdowns and a safety. This is, they come in increments of 1. So I say 1, there's a puck in the back of your net. They celebrate, band plays. 2, puck in the back of your net. They celebrate, band plays. 3, you get the idea. It's very tedious. All right. I knew their damn fight song by the end of the night. It's that often. 13 times. You learn anything pretty well by then. The guys were pissed, upset, deflated, throwing their gloves, throwing their sticks in the locker room afterwards, saying, we never lost this badly last year when we lost every game. And that was true. And I said, hey, stop, look up. They all stop what they're doing. They all look up. I said, I saw the score. I was there. I can't spin this. We just got our butts handed to us on a silver platter. And I think that shocked them to know that I was going to tell the truth. Don't lie to your people. They can handle the truth. They're not stupid. All right? If it's bad news in the court or whatever else, tell them the bad news. Let's find a way to figure it out. Don't soften it. Ari Weinswig, one of my heroes, one of Rob's close friends, they have open book accounting at Zingerman's. COVID hits. Here's what we lost, $20 million a year. Let's deal with that. Now everyone's part of the same team. So I saw it, and I can't spin this either. It wasn't a fluke. That's how good they are, and that's how far we have to go. So there's that. That got their attention. But that's not what matters. What matters here are our values. What are the 2 values of Huron hockey? And they mumble them. Work hard, support your team. No. We've been shouting it all fall, all summer. I want to hear it now. Start shouting it back and forth. Work hard, support your teammates, support your teammates. I said, okay, did we do those things tonight? And they think about it and they said, actually, we did. We worked hard the entire game, even down 13-2 with the Trenton kids banging on the glass. All right. They didn't give up. They kept coming hard. Did anyone point the finger at the goalie or the defense or the forwards for not scoring more goals? No. We supported the goalie after every single goal, that's 13 goals. All right. That was impressive. I said, that's right. What you did tonight is incredibly hard. There's no other team in the state of Michigan that would have kept working hard down 13-2 at Trenton. All right. No other team in the state that would have kept supporting each other the way you did. They had an easy night. That was fun for them. That was simple. Right. What you did was hard, incredibly hard. And that's how we define ourselves. A crucial thing I've noticed with great leaders, great achievers, great teams, they have the ability to define themselves. When the world says you suck, it doesn't matter. And on your way up, they're always going to. The world will always try to bring you down. All right. You listen to that stuff and you're screwed. All right. You have to have the ability to define yourself always. A great line from Satchel Paige, Negro League baseball player. And when he's playing the Negro Leagues, they're playing in the South. And of course, at one point, they try to go to the restaurant. And the guy at the gas station says, and this is exactly, boy, you can't go in there. Obviously very insulting, very racist. And boy, you can't eat there. And Satchel Paige says, I can eat there, you just won't let me. Big difference. Satchel Paige defined himself. Those are your stupid rules. It's not my inability to eat. All right. I know how to eat here. I got money. All right. I can do all these things. You have chosen not to let me do so. That's your problem, not my problem. That to me is genius. So that's what we're doing here. We don't care what everyone else is saying about us. You walk out of here with your head held high. We've got 2 objectives in this team. You met them both. We're good. I'm proud of you. Let's go. And that, I'd like to tell you, it launched a winning streak, no, 10-game losing streak. And that was the best coaching I ever did. And the guys on the team said we kept coming hard every night. We followed our 2 rules, got closer and closer and closer, and we got through it. We finished the season with 7 wins, most improved team in school history. Second year was easy compared to the first year because the only rookies are the freshmen. Everyone else knows what's going on. We had a joke in our team about leading by example. Leading by example is clearly very important. If you don't do it, you're a hypocrite. And they won't follow you, and they should not follow you. But it's not nearly enough on a great team to simply lead by example. We had a joke in our team. Those who lead by example have a name. They're called sophomores. That just means you know your job and you can do your job. Congratulations. You got a jersey and a stall in my locker room. You get a seat on the bus. That means you're on the team. Working, it means you get a cubicle, you get a parking spot, you get a salary. That's what the money's for, all right, for doing your job. That's all that means. Your junior year, we expect you to know your job, do your job, know everyone else's job too. And your senior year, know your job, do your job, know everyone else's job, and help them do their jobs better. If you're a senior in my team, you've got 1.5 to 2 jobs every day you show up. Do your job and help everyone else do their jobs. And that's how you get a good team going. A guy named John Cooper was coaching Lansing Catholic Central when I was coaching at Huron. He is now the head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are trying to win their 3rd consecutive Stanley Cup. So I guess our career paths somehow diverged because I'm not in the NHL playoffs this week. So good for him. Great line. He said, bad teams, nobody leads. Good teams, coaches lead. Great teams, everybody leads. And that's what I wanted. The title is Let Them Lead. They need to lead. So that's what they did. I put them in charge of all kinds of stuff. Goal setting for the year, which we took very seriously. It took 2 days to come up with their 10 goals. They came up with that. They made the rules for the team. When there's time for punishment, I'd bring the seniors in and ask, how do I handle this? And they're always tougher than I would have been. All right. I put them in charge of almost everything. And the more we did that, the better we got. It was incredible. They were bought in. So we got a good team, maybe even a great team that year. And I did not cut one player from the 0, 22, and 3 team. If you saw us through that, you're on the team and you get your ice time. So we didn't just swap out guys. So anyway, we're doing all this. We're 6-5 at midseason, second year. We got a good team, but we should be 10-1. We've outshot every team but Trenton that year. We got a good team going, but our goaltending is not working. 2 very good goalies, 2 very good guys. I love them, but they're at each other's throats and bringing each other down, and it wasn't working. So what do? You bring in 5th string goalie, Nate Reichwich. He was 5th string our first year as a sophomore. That's a joke because teams only have 3 goalies. So 5 goalies, but I love the kid. He worked out all summer and all fall. He never gave up. And I had 2 seniors about to graduate. I was going to need another goalie. I knew that for the next year. You need 3 goalies for practice. So I took them and I had him alternate practice with the freshmen on the team as well. I love the guy, but as he points out, he could not stop a beach ball. That's not good for a goalie. So that's his own words in the book. I interviewed all the players for the book, which is a lot of fun. But I was tired of it. I said, screw it. We're putting Nate in against Grosse Pointe South, the last game before winter break. We got 3 weeks to think about this game afterwards. Grosse Pointe South is number 7 in the state. They fight for state titles. They're a very, very disciplined team, very well coached. You expect all those things. So I was ready for a whitewash. I was ready to chew out the goalies afterwards, not for the performance, but for a bad attitude. Important point. You are very patient with results, and you're extraordinarily impatient with behaviors. We control behaviors. We don't control the economy. We don't control pucks bouncing, referees, goalies. We control our behaviors. Behaviors on that point, if you show up late, you're not playing that weekend, period. All right, that's all there is to it. We handle that business every game. So anyway, so Nate was great at all that. And I was mad at the other 2 goalies for their attitudes at that point. We throw them in there, expecting to get swamped. Final score, Huron 5, Grosse Pointe South 3. To this day, I have no idea what the hell happened that night. I expected to lose by 10, easily, in fact, by 10. And Nate was an all-stater. It wasn't just a fluky either. He looked great. He was calm, measured. His posture was perfect. His movements were right on target. He was amazing. And we decided right then and there, that's our starting goalie. For the next year and a half until he graduated, Nate Reichwich went from 5th string to starting goalie in a night, and he was the goalie on a top 10 team. So you can't say that hurt us. That guy was amazing. And here's the lesson here. It's crucial. It applies to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Water all the plants. Don't be fooled by resumes and interviews. You have to give people a tryout to see what they can really do. And they will surprise you. That's chapter 6. Let them surprise you. And I see coaches and leaders fall into the habit of being so smart that I can predict who's going to succeed and who isn't. No, you can't. No one's that good. Bo Schembechler wasn't that good. He told me I got fooled all the time. I give speeches to HR departments constantly. By a show of hands, who's gotten fooled by a resume and an interview? And all the hands go up many times, because we get fooled by that stuff all the time. And you are missing out on talent that does not show up in interviews and resumes. So you have to go beyond that, do a little more work. Nate Reichwich, throw him in there. The guy did the job. So water all the plants, treat them all the same. And during workouts and so on, handle them that way. So quick interruption. Teddy, come say hello real quick. Show them your ships. There we go. Titanic and Titanic. There we go. He's going off for his last week of school, starting next week. Ice from Social tonight. Say hi, Teddy.
Hi.
There we go. How'd baseball go last night?
Good.
What'd you do?
We won.
Yes, but what'd you do?
I hit the baseball from a pitching machine twice.
That's miraculous at this age, trust me. All right, pal, I love you. See you, have fun at school. See you tonight.
Okay.
By the way, he's a smarter coach than I am. He said we won the game. That's what matters. Not your 2 hits. So he's a better example than I've got. So, all right. Water all the plants. Don't pick favorites. Don't pick favorites. It's not your job to pick favorites. You have no idea who's going to succeed or when. You have no idea when your plants are going to blossom. So take that with a grain of salt and let them all succeed. So there we go. We finished that season by playing Trenton at Trenton. Regional final. We've now got 16 wins. We've been the most improved team in school history 2 years in a row. That's how bad we were. So plus 7 wins and plus 16 wins. Christy, thanks. Plus 7 wins, plus 16 wins, pretty good. We got to play Trenton. They're number 1 in the state again. They're about to, on their way to another state title and all this stuff. We got to play them. What do? You get help. I called my mentor, Herb Brooks. He's the 1980 Olympic coach who beat the Soviets 4-3, the miracle on ice. You've heard Al Michaels say it, I'm sure. Do you believe in miracles? That's Herb. Herb and I became good friends through sports writing, and he and I were working on a book at that time before he died in a car accident, sadly. I said, okay, Herb, it's not about the book. It's about hockey. The River Rats, and he loved that name, of course. I said, we're the Americans, they're the Soviets, what do we do? And he said, genius, as you'd expect from Herb. He said, only this, above all, you got to believe. If they believe, anything is possible. If they don't believe, nothing is possible. But it comes with a catch. Just because you work hard, support your teammates, and believe in yourselves and each other does not mean you're going to win. But it does mean if you don't do those things, you can't win. All right, that's the lottery ticket you've got to buy. Just because you buy a lottery ticket does not mean you're going to win the lottery. But I guarantee you this, if you don't buy a lottery ticket, and for us that was hope and faith and belief, those are the tickets you have to buy. Without those tickets, you're not going to win, guaranteed. So, and it's going to make it more heartbreaking if you lose, but that's the price, the chance you got to take. So there we are. We're playing Trenton, final score 3-2, Trenton. We outshot them 30-27. And when the game is over, and they felt lucky to get out of there, their fans, packed house, free press is there, big game. And their fans are on pins and needles standing up at the end. They give my guys a standing ovation after that game because they had seen the 13-2 game, and that is not the same team that you saw at the beginning of the previous year. So their captain pulls my captain, Chris Kunkel, Steve Kunkel and Robin Kunkel's kid, you might know them, pulls them close and says, you guys should have won that game. It was a class act from a class team. And when the game was over, they're about to go off. And I say, no, you've earned your right to be on their ice. Line up on the blue line, watch them get their medals, watch them get their trophy. You've earned your right to be here. And I walked down the line and told each one of them that exact phrase. So I said 2 years earlier, our goal is nothing less than a state title. We lost by 1 goal to the team that won the state title. That was the only close game they had. So within a year and a half, that crazy dream was within reach. Third year, we take off. We're cooking with gas. We win 14 straight games, a little better than our 10-game losing streak. We're number 4 team in the state. We're getting good. We lose a close one to Pioneer, our arch rival. We lose another one to Trenton by a goal. So it's frustrating. What do? When in doubt, you put your guys in charge. Let them lead. I call our captain up and I tell him, Chris Fragner, I said, tomorrow night, you guys are going to coach the game. And he says, what does that mean? I say, you'll find out. So they get to the rink and the dry erase board is empty. There's no roster on it. There's no lineup. The score sheet is empty as well. So I said, seniors, you pick the lineup, you pick the starters, you change the lines on the fly during the game. You pick the power play and the penalty kill within 10 seconds. We get a penalty or a power play. And you talk to the team between the periods and you talk to the Ann Arbor News after the game. Hope you win. And we're playing a very good team. Not better than we are, I don't think, but they're close enough to beat us, certainly. It's a good team. This could easily backfire. Final score, Huron 6, downtown Riverview, nothing, 6-0. They're on fire. And the impressive part was not the 6. The impressive part was the 0. That meant every guy was accountable to everyone else and no one screwed up to allow them to score. The 0 is what impressed me. And they talked to the team, the Ann Arbor News afterwards. Ann Arbor News says, if John Bacon keeps on making decisions like this, he's soon going to be out of a job. I mean, that's exactly the right idea. You want to be replaced if you're a good leader. And those guys did it. So last lesson, we finished 17-4-5, best team in school history. Number 53 in the nation. We passed 1,203 teams in 3 years. That's 97% of the nation. And no one's done that before or since. You got to start out at the bottom. It's pretty hard to do. So there you go right there. Lesson there from Herb Brooks. Whenever we won a trophy, all right, Herb Brooks, you've all seen the last seconds of that game, of course, against the Soviets. Find a picture of Herb Brooks celebrating on the ice, shaking hands as you're supposed to, or a video, and you can't. Because although he waited 20 years for the opportunity, he's the last man cut. The 1960 Olympic team that won the gold medal also, heartbroken. 20 years he worked for this goal to be achieved. That was his goal for 20 years, incredibly. To beat the Soviets for the gold medal in 1980. That was his stated goal years earlier. He's nuts. He finally achieves it. What does he do? Looks at the scoreboard to make sure it's true. He goes like this. He looks at his players with great admiration, respect, a little glacier, and dare I say it, love. And then he walks beneath the stands and goes to a public locker room and cries in a stall by himself. That's how this man celebrated the greatest upset in the history of sports, any league, anywhere, anytime. So here's the lesson. And he told me I did not score a single goal in 1960 when they won the gold medal. I didn't score one in 1980 when those players won the gold medal. And I didn't score a single goal as a player. And guess what? I didn't score a single goal as a coach. So whenever we won a trophy, we won 5 or 6 along the way. What do? They say, Coach Bacon, come get your trophy. That ain't your trophy. You didn't score any goals. You didn't make any shots. You didn't make any hits. You didn't make any passes. You jam your hands in their pockets. You nail your feet to that red carpet. You nod at your captain to go get his trophy, and you walk off. They celebrate. You go beneath the stands. So if you don't do that, by the way, they're going to quit working for you. So that was our story. And the last thing about that is we're still close. It's been 18 years since I coached. We'll have a barbecue out here in 2 months. They all come back from around the country. I go to their weddings. They come up there with their kids. Their kids are older than my kids. Their kids are 10 or 12. They give me parenting advice, and I have to take it. So that's how close we are. But that's the lesson. And the ultimate lesson is let them lead. Your values will outlive your victories every time. What Teddy said was right. We won the game. His 2 hits don't matter. So there we go. There's the spiel. We got 20 minutes for Q&A. And what do you got?
Thanks, John. That's a great summary of the book, a very moving and enjoyable book to read. So I hope people, if you haven't read it yet, will go get it. I like to listen to John on audio. I was listening to you yesterday, John, looking at the lake up here in northern Michigan. It was very, very relaxing, very much fun. So, John, I got a quick story for you. The goalie for the U.S. For the Russians, Tretiak, is that how you say his name?
Tretiak, yes.
Tretiak.
Vladislav Tretiak.
Yeah, so he's one of the, I guess, considered one of the greatest goalies of all time. Is that correct? Yeah.
That is
So
absolutely
several
correct.
years ago, maybe 10 years ago, my family's from Latvia, John.
Ah,
And
I didn't know that.
several cousins and I went to Latvia, and one of the cousins was the ambassador to Latvia from the US. And we were there on the 4th of July, and we were out on a patio celebrating actually what Pat and I were celebrating was our wedding anniversary. It was our 40th wedding anniversary. We were married on the 4th of July.
Hey.
So we're sitting at the table, and all of a sudden a guy comes over, the waiter with a nice bottle of champagne, and he puts it in front of us, and he says, this is from the other table. I said, well, whose table is that? Well, that's Chechyak, the goalie from Russia. He's sending you a bottle of champagne for your anniversary. I thought, oh my God, that is, how did he know it was our anniversary? That's totally incredible. Well, later on, it turns out that he wasn't selling it to me. He thought I was the ambassador. He was actually selling it to my cousin. And he said, the anniversary, 4th of July, United States. So it was a moment of thrill, but it was a misinterpretation, which Russia and US have continued to do for many, many years. So
it's sad to say, but in the meantime, bring the champagne. So
I'm going to let people ask their questions, John, and we'll start with, let's see, go in order here. If you could speak up, Marilyn Clark, do you have a story or a comment?
Well, you know what? One thing that struck me in the book was how hard you worked. I mean, you thought you were going to work like 3 hours that summer, and you were out there sweating with them all. I'm wondering if you could comment about that aspect of leadership, how you behave.
Sure. Well, as I said, leading by example is vital. It's not enough. But if you don't do that, you've already lost them. What I was surprised to learn, I had 54 players in my 4 years total. And more than half of them sent me pages for this book with memories and so on. I got 150 pages or so from those guys. Almost all of them mentioned a thing that I didn't realize was that important. That Coach Lappridge and I, assistant coach, great guy, Mike Lappridge officially. He and I were on the track in the weight room, running the stadium steps and so on. Almost all of them mentioned that. And they thought, okay, this whole thing is crazy, but this guy's in with us. So that right there sent a message. And the line I've got in the book, don't ever expect your people to work harder than you do. In most work environments, whoever the leader is, that person will set the bar. And if you're lucky, your people will be 80 or 90% of that. They will very rarely, it takes a very highly motivated person to work harder than their boss. That does not happen very often. So if you're not doing that, stop right now. It's just not going to happen if you're not willing to put that kind of time in. And if it's not that important to you, it won't be that important to them. So that one's very simple.
All right. Thanks, John.
Quick one on, I got to give you some more props, Tretiak, on passing on Tretiak. Tretiak, some say, was the greatest goalie who ever lived. This is the guy, by the way, who took on the Canadians. In that famous U.S.-Soviet game, they pulled Tikhonov, the coach, pulled Tretiak after the first period after a so-so goal to make a point, not thinking the Americans were all that serious. I interviewed Tretiak once in Traverse City when he was working with the Chicago Blackhawks, and they were at the training camp in September with the Red Wings. And I said, I have to tell you, as a high school kid, I could not believe it when Tikhonov pulled you. And he looked at me all of a sudden very grim and said, I could not believe it either. That's a coaching screw up, people. That's how you lose that game. So Rob met one of the best and got a free bottle of champagne. That's pretty cool.
So I'm going to call on David Fessel, my colleague and friend. David and I have taught about emotional intelligence to doctors, which is a challenging thing to do. David, you want to ask your question?
Sure. Great to see you, John. You light up when you talk about coaching. We've talked about that in the past, coaching Huron, coaching Michigan women's hockey. Do you plan to coach again? You clearly love it so, and you're so good at it.
Well, you're very kind, David. I do love it. People often ask why I stopped, and the answer is easy. It's time and money. That job pays $5,000 a winter. It pays you nothing in the off season, and I was working almost as hard. I was putting in 40 hours a week during the winter when you add it all up. Now, still finishing books. My early books were getting done during that time. That's how you stay single, by the way, in your 30s. That'll do it. So a few times, women I was dating showed up to the rink, and they said, "Oh, I waved at you." It's like, man, during a game, if the stands aren't on fire, I'm not going to notice anything. So I was not always a fully present boyfriend, I can say that. So I did love it, no question about it. I went to teaching at Michigan after that for 15 or so years. And now the corporate stuff, the speaking, is what my friends call coaching methadone. As you got a taste during my little speech, when I got a team together, it's fun helping companies turn things around. But as far as coaching goes, I'm coaching Team 2 in machine pitch baseball in Pittsfield Township. And that means try to keep the ball in front of you is what that means. So very simple. We got a cheer. We got a cheer that goes, have fun, have fun, have fun, have fun. Learn a ton, learn a ton, learn a ton, learn a ton. Score some runs, score some runs. Eat a hot dog bun, eat a hot dog bun. Team 2. That's our cheer. So, and by the way, that cheer keeps them coming back when you're 6. That cheer matters. So,
Yeah, sure.
And by the way, David Fessel is a great leader in his own right. By the way, I've watched his career with great interest, and it's fascinating what he's doing. So I'm not surprised you and Rob are close friends. So I do love coaching. I'm back into it now.
John, I have to
Okay.
ask you a question, follow up for David. So is it just a rumor when we saw you and Stevie Eiserman hanging out that you're not being considered for the Red Wings coach? Is that right?
I'm definitely not being considered for the Red Wings coaching, but I guarantee you he'll read the book. Bob Clark of the Flyers read the book. He's the Mr. Flyers Hall of Famer, their best player of all time. He's been a GM with them and a president at various points as well. He bought a box of those books for his coaching staff, and they all had to read it. And so I believe Eiserman's doing the same. So,
Great.
and if he's not, he should be. But I've heard that, so we'll see. That does not make me a
Let's see,
consultant,
we got,
however.
Rick Reed out there to ask a question. Rick
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 Reed.
and I also have a hockey background.
Yeah.
We went to the Stanley Cup Finals to see Pittsburgh and Red Wings. We saw Red Wings win that game, right, Rick? As I
We
recall.
did, 2008. We were right in the scrum zone. You couldn't have asked for better seats, Rob. I'll never forget that. That was a memorable game for sure, a bucket list game. Hey, John, so after reading the book, I finished it this week, and it struck one of the things that had to strike a lot of people that read the book was the fact that the 022 and 3 team actually celebrated their loserhood, and in some sick way, it was like, I've never heard of that, like a team that actually celebrated their status as America's worst team. And then when I finished the book, I thought, when referring to the book, do you say, is it let them lead? I think it's let them lead is almost like the emphasis on them. So it was really a great read, real page turner. Kudos to you for putting that together and documenting, going from worst to almost first. Great job.
Appreciate that, Rick. I have to give credit, by the way, to the previous team. We had a lot of problems. We lack of discipline. We're not in good shape. Didn't know much hockey. Zero confidence. But they were unified. And that's Brian Skyless and J.O. Delancey, some names you might know around town. Steve Black. Those guys, what they did was they kept their sanity despite it all. And they stayed together. And those guys came back for the next year. A lot of those guys were about to quit, I understand, but they came back. So I have to give them credit for that. At the school dance is what you're talking about. At the time they were 0-16, I think. They're not yet 0-22-3. And they had a chant in the middle of the dance floor, 0-16. Oh, and I think that's a way to keeping their sanity to make the best out of a bad situation. It sucks, it blows, but we're all in this together. So there's some value in that. So anyway, and by the way, before I got 11 more minutes here, Janice Costa, any relation to the tennis Costas? So you got your mute on there.
Yep, those are my sons.
There you go. Well, tell Michael I know them both, but tell Michael I'm a big fan of his work, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I will.
Her son is a nationally acclaimed stand-up comedian, by the way. And Michael Brooks, if that's the Michael Brooks, hello to him too. We're overdue for a lunch. But there's my little social aside. Michael, show your face.
I want to add congratulations to Jan about Michael, because Michael is on the Daily Show regularly, right?
Right.
Yeah, so he's done really well.
Thank you.
Tennis champion, TV star, and still trying to get the whole love of his mom. But I think he's got it.
Got it. He's got it.
And
Very good.
Jan, we're sorry. Jan lost. We all lost John Costa this past year. John was a tremendous member of the community and a great father and friend. So we're sorry for that loss, Jan.
Thanks, Rob.
We're going to ask Judge Sharon Townsend, who's coming to us from, I think, are you in New York State this year? right
Yeah,
now?
right now I'm in Western New York.
Yeah,
But I have
unfortunately,
ties
I
to
brought the
Michigan
Buffalo
and Ann Arbor.
tragedy a few weeks
Oh,
ago.
yes. It's been a difficult time here. We're getting through it though, but thank you. But I have ties to Ann Arbor, as Rob knows, and Mary knows, because my children went to University of Michigan. And my son was the captain of the undefeated lacrosse team when they were still a club team in 2008. And at the end of that season, he was the goalie also for the lacrosse team. And at the end of that season, he got up and quoted the Bo Schembechler, "If you stay, they will be champions." And he had gone through a tough time for those 4 years, and so did the team, and they ended up champions, which was pretty exciting at the time. And then the next year they went D1. So I just wondered what you thought of that mantra that Bo Schembechler, I think, is famous for as a motivator to players. I also want to just mention two other things about my own personal connection with hockey, is that my son also played hockey throughout high school, and they were state champions. He was captain then too.
Where did you go to high school?
Well, this is in Western New York, in
Oh,
Williams,
you said that, sorry.
New York.
Oh, yeah.
So not in Michigan. But in any event, we also are very close friends with Lindy Ruff, who is now the coach of the New Jersey Devils, was the former coach of the Dallas Stars and the New York Dallas Stars and the Buffalo Sabres for 17 years. And we also were personal friends of Mike Ramsey, who played on that team for Herb Brooks. So I'm going to send Lindy your book, and I'm sure he will appreciate that advice to coaches, because they're trying to get in the playoffs again and failed this year. But if he doesn't do better next year, he's not going to have a job much longer, I don't think.
It's a brutal occupation, to say the least. Mike Ramsey's also a friend of mine.
Is he? Tell him I said hi.
He was with the Red Wings. If you talked, you'll probably talk to him before I do, but
No,
he was with the
probably
Red
not.
Wings when I was at the Detroit News. That's when I did the story of him and Slava Fetisov being enemies in 1980 and then became roommates. So
Oh, cool.
Really cool story. And one of the great jokes, when somebody asked Fetisov on the Red Wings in the locker room, said, Slava, how many gold medals do you have? Like 20? And Ramsey pipes up from the other room, 19 gold, 1 silver. It's a joke you can make, but I'd be happy to sign Lindy's books. Let's talk after we get off here. And,
Okay.
Rob knows how to get a hold of me. JohnUBacon.com. It's easy. So
Okay, well,
I'd be happy to sign it. So
Thank you.
sure.
John, how about a comment about Bo? I know you are a very astute historian of Bo, a former friend of Bo. Yeah.
Sure. It's one of the best leaders I've ever seen, period. And what made him great was not the recruiting. His recruiting was usually top 10, but not always. No one got more out of the guys he had. And look, this book has a lot of ideas that I've stolen from Herb Brooks, from Red Berenson, from Bo Schembechler. The 3 Bs, as I called them, because I drew on them a lot for this. But water all the plants. Bo didn't care if you're a walk-on or an All-American. If you play better on Friday, you're in the game on Saturday. He played no favorites. That's crucial. And that's also from a logistical point of view. It's not just motivational. It's if you play favorites, which most coaches do, most teachers do, most bosses do, it's the easiest sin to commit, I think, in leadership. Because you think, okay, I'll just play the favorites. What happens is this: the favorite is now demotivated because that person knows you won't take his or her job away. So I'm not going to have to work that hard. And the person beneath you, they're also demotivated. They know that you can't get it. Even if you're better on a given day, you won't get it. With Bo, man, every week, your job is up for grabs. And John Wangler had a great line about that, the old quarterback from the late 70s. He said, man, to hell with Illinois and Iowa. Those are days off. I play a half, no one will touch me, and I'm out for the second half. That was the easiest day of the week. He said Tuesday and Wednesday, full line practice. That was brutal. We had no red shirts back then. They were allowed to hit me. I had 4 All-Staters behind me dying to take my job, and Bo would have given it to them if I was not better that day. He said, my goal is to get to Wednesday night dinner as the starting quarterback of the University of Michigan football team. If I can do that, I'm playing on Saturday. So that was his motivation. It motivates everybody. And walk-ons would become starters with Bo. So that's one of the biggest lessons I got. Also, Bo cared about his players. I've addressed the whole Dr. Anderson thing, no time for it here. But if you go on JohnUBacon.com, you'll see my very long essay about that. It's a complicated situation. But I did more research on that than I think anyone has yet. in terms of what do we know, what do we not know. So take a look. So, but it's undeniably
John,
complicated.
what's next for
My
you?
old neighbor, Geraldine Markel, by the way. Marco, good to see you. So go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, John, we're gonna have to wrap up, and I want to ask everybody else to stay on. John's got a radio program to do at 9. He's a busy guy today. But I hope everybody else could stay on and we could chat about the book and also just talk about what we've been up to. I know there's a lot of great questions out there, and I'm sorry I can't get to all of them, but maybe, John, if we send these to you, you could send a brief email to folks, will you, to answer some of these questions?
Happy to, of course.
Excellent.
So yeah, the last plug, follow the podcast and Let Them Lead by bacon.com. And that's been a lot of fun. That's been growing. So
all right, great. I'd love to.
And also, by the way, whoever needs a signed book, just call up Nicholas or Literati. That's the best way to do it. You leave the order. I come in once a week to sign whatever they've got, and either ship it for free or you can go and pick it up. So that's pretty cool.
I'd love to be a guest on your program someday. Please feel.
I got bad news. You're going to be. So there you go.
30 years of Leaders Connect here. So
I think that's enough experience. I think that qualifies.
Yeah. This is the second time we've seen you here. The first was about the book about Bo, and you do a pretty good Bo imitation. I say that's another one of your party skills, right?
There you go. Well, one of the great lines to Bo, when I did the article that led to the book with him, long article, spent a week with the guy. I got 2.5 pages in the Detroit News. I didn't hear anything from Bo all week long, so I'm freaking out after a certain point. Like, how pissed off is he? So I go in his office and he says some words I'll never forget. Bacon, you didn't screw it up, and frankly, I'm surprised. So that's the best review I've ever gotten, right there.
All right. Well, John, what's next? What are you working on now? Can you say?
You're going to love this one, Rob. I'm putting it to bed right now. A book about the 1972 Summit Series between Team Canada and the Soviets. It's the first time they put the dream team together in Canada, like our basketball team 20 years ago with Jordan and so on. They'd never done it before. They'd only sent the college kids out. So they finally put the best team together. They're playing the Soviets. They're supposed to win 4 games in Canada, 4 games in the Soviet Union. With 3 games left, Canada's got to win all 3. They're shocked at how good they are. Tretiak, your buddy, the scouting report said when he's in net, we will have a 5 or 6 goal advantage. What the dumb scouts didn't know is the game they saw him play when he let 9 goals in, that was the morning after his bachelor party, and he was not there. He was not at top form. They discovered very on that he's not only a good goalie, he's the best goalie they've seen. So the scouting report is off, and that comes out this fall. That'll be a lot of fun.
Well, John, I think you're being viewed now as one of the best sports writers in the country, which is a fantastic thing. I remember when I was a little kid growing up in Detroit, I love the sports writers. There's a guy named Joe Falls. You probably know Joe Falls and Pete Waldemeier, and those guys are kids look up to those sports writers. So
yeah, they don't anymore, but anyway. But I'm still having fun.
Any other comments, John, just to wrap up?
I'd say this. I usually end my speeches with a simple question. We don't have time to dive into it full blast right now, but I always ask, who was your favorite teacher? It's a question that I blurted out 12 years ago in Vancouver for a speech, and I'm glad I did. I've asked it across North America, South America, in English, Portuguese, and Espanol. Everybody in the world can come up with that within 5 seconds. No matter how old you are, everybody knows their favorite teacher in 5 seconds. And it could be a 3rd grade teacher, it could be biology in high school, it could be a college professor, whatever it is. There's nothing in common except for 2 things. Never, ever once in 200 times I've asked that, has anybody said your favorite teacher was easy? Never, ever, ever. That tells us something. All right. And 2, they cared about you. That's leadership in a nutshell. You got to, I love you so much, I'm going to push you hard. That's all it is. And everything else is details. So get those 2 things right and not much else matters. Get those 2 things wrong and not much else is going to matter. So
well, look forward.
We all know what it looks like. It's your favorite teacher.
Fantastic. Well, I look forward to having you back. Hockey is my favorite sport, and so we could talk all the time about. Let me ask one question, John. Who do you think the greatest hockey player of all time was?
It's not even a question. It's Wayne Gretzky. So
Wayne Gretzky. All right.
This is how good he was. If you took out of all his total points, 3,000 some points, if you took out all his goals, which is the most goals in history, all his goals, he would still have the most points in all of hockey with his assists alone. All right. That's how. He's ahead of everybody else by 40%. In no other sport is that even the case. So, and I interviewed him for the latest book, by the way, about the Summit Series. Americans don't know about it, but more Canadians saw the last goal with 34 seconds left than saw the moon landing 3 years earlier. And they watched the moon landing. And I asked Wayne Gretzky about this, and he said, "Well, yeah, it was more important." So there.
I thought the top thing in Canada was the winning curling throw. That's not it then.
Not quite. No, my grandfather Canadian was a curler, by the way. I'm actually half Canadian, so I'm half Canadian bacon. There's your joke. So
there you go. That's that. With that line, we're going to wrap things up. Even Randy Milgram could have come up with that line. So that's hilarious.
I might have stolen it from Randy. So Randy, thanks for that one. Good to see a lot of friends on here too, by the way, lifelong friends. Rob, thanks so much. You're one of them. Appreciate it.
So please,
thanks, John.
Please thank John. Thumbs up, hands clap, whatever. Yeah, fantastic. And please hang on. Actually, I'm going to call on Randy to maybe comment on what he's seen and what he's up to too. So, Randy, I know I could always call on you to talk. So,
what did you say, to comment on what I've seen?
Well, just comment on what you've been hearing from John and.
Oh, well, John and I actually did. Well, I guess it was through email, but not too long ago. I was just, I read his book, and it was a book that he talked about writing at the time, but as he mentioned, he had, he couldn't even keep a girlfriend. He didn't have enough time to do much else, and so the couple of comments that I thought of was, it's like, he didn't talk about it that much in the group that we met pretty regularly, and it wasn't something that I knew he was coaching, and he invited us to a couple of games, and I went to a couple of games. But he seemed so busy with his writing, and but the fact is that, like I said to him, I don't know how he found time for anything else, because he clearly, as somebody else had mentioned, how hard he worked. So, he's just a guy with a lot of bandwidth. And I also mentioned to him that the book was helpful to me, because one of the things that I've been doing is I've been very involved with the Jewish Federation of Greater Ann Arbor. And in fact, I was president for several years, and I just gave way just last week, although I'm still on the board. I'm still immediate past president, doing a bunch of stuff. But there were things that I was doing, maybe just sort of instinctively, or I guess haphazardly, that were similar to what John wrote about. I just thought John obviously put it together in a book in a very entertaining and compelling way, but also a very systematic way. He created a system, and after the fact, I think he knew how to describe it. And to me, it was sort of like, I guess I'm doing some of these things and didn't know it. And in particular, knowing that you need help. And so I tried to create as many. There were as many lieutenants and others, sort of create a large pyramid of folks who were out there doing the work, because you couldn't do it all by yourself. So, and just, Rob, thanks for the opportunity just to say, so, and I've been running my own, writing, editing, consulting business. And I sort of treated the job at Federation as more than a full-time job. So I was just sort of taking projects as they were coming to me, and which they still do, because I've been doing it for 30 years. But now I'm actually, I didn't realize it, but now that I know that I have a lot more time on my hands, the thing I want to do most is work more. So I've already I've been starting to market my business again, or just talk to folks and let them know that I'm available to help them write a book or an article, or just consult on message strategy. So anyway, I've taken up enough time, but thanks for giving me the opportunity, Rob.
Sure. And I'm going to call on Eric. Eric and I have been talking with Elliot Soloway and Len Middleton about crisis of mental health in it's in all schools, but we're particularly talking about it at U of M, where maybe you could comment, Eric, and talk about a little bit of what you're seeing and what we're thinking about doing.
Yeah, it's this relatively unprecedented, I guess you'd call it a side effect of the COVID years, where even though we're back, the students aren't back. And what really brought it home for me was I was in a meeting with some other teachers at the U of M, and I was sort of bemoaning the fact that I had seen what was for me to that point unprecedented absenteeism. And I was saying that, geez, in my 250 person lecture, I have 50 people missing, which I'm not used to. And every single one of the other like 20 people in the room said, excuse me, what did you say? And I said, I have 50 people missing out of 200. And they looked at each other and looked at me and they said, Eric, we only get 50 people out of 250. And so entire lectures just don't show. And there's this sort of passivity and, students coming into the end of the class having not turned in half the assignments. And no matter how many reminders you give them, and it's a very bizarre, there was nothing like this prior to the pandemic. It's like a global shifting of standards or something, and we can't get the genie back in the bottle because they're used to saying, oh, I just want to watch it asynchronously, or I know that they're going to be really gentle on grading because of COVID, so I'm just going to sort of vote it in. And overall, there's tremendous amount of sort of mental health stress and other things. When I ask the students, how are you doing? Overall, are you okay? And a significant number, really depends on the term, will basically reply and say, no, I'm really not okay. I'm only barely holding it together. So there's something going on. It's not good. I don't know that I necessarily have all the answers. There's been,
well, we're going to try to
not
put
just
something
Michigan.
together. We're going to try to put something together. So sorry for speaking over you. But Eric, one other comment. Eric was a commander in the Navy, and you had a ship. How many men did you have on your ship?
I was on the USS Chosin, which is an Aegis class cruiser, the biggest ship in the Navy and most expensive other than an aircraft carrier at the time. When it was fully crewed, it was around 400 people.
So what did you resonate with as John was talking about leadership? You had a leadership of not just a fun thing, but something that was very crucial and
right.
Crucial to the lives of everybody, keeping people safe. What are some of the lessons you took away from that?
Yeah, that was great. He had a lot of really great points that strongly resonated. I really enjoyed it. And throughout my 24-year career, leadership is literally the bread and butter of doing well in the military, because you got to get people to follow you, even when following you could mean that they lose their lives. So if you could convince them to do that, you've really got something going. I think one of the biggest ones, he doesn't say it exactly these words, but for me was, and I guess he mentioned it once, was the lead by example. For me, the core of my leadership philosophy comes down to a phrase from John Paul Jones, which he said in the 1700s, which was, if you would seek to be perfectly obeyed, seek first to be perfectly esteemed. And it's important to remember that when he was at sea, he was an officer in the time of sail, where if you so much as accidentally bumped into an officer, you could be flogged until you passed out. So obedience to orders was not questioned. The coercive force that was available to make you do what you were told was overwhelming at sea. But he rejected that and said, if they admire you, they will always obey you. And that was a huge cornerstone for me of all of my leadership philosophy. And there's a lot more to it, but I loved it when he said, when he was running up and down the stairs with the absolutely nothing builds the respect and the sort of the mutual sort of power between a group than that. And so that was always my thing, was that I was always making sure that I was the last one to go to sleep, that I was the last one to get fed, that to make sure that my people had everything they needed to succeed. And in return, they would consistently deliver amazing performances for me. And that happened over and over again through my military career. So that's a big piece. And a number of his other ones I really liked as well.
Damon, you also were a leader in the service, and you now are a leader of business. What lessons are you resonating with?
So yeah, and I wanted to catch John, but unfortunately I missed him because I'm also currently working with the River Rats right now as the strength and conditioning coach. So I'm gonna need some tips from him. But just as Eric was saying, once military, always military. So we like to take these mantras that we get from our careers. I spent 21 years in the U.S. Army. And one of our acronyms, if you will, is, and Eric, you may know it, is leadership. And that, that acronym is basically loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. So I apply that acronym to everything. And I always ask kids that I coach, people that I mentor, or employees, I always ask them to ask themselves, would you lead you into battle? And more importantly, would you follow you into battle? And if you can answer those two questions, then without a shadow of a doubt, we all have some form of leadership within us. It's up to good leaders to bring it to surface, and it's up to you to do self-assessments on a regular basis and be honest with yourself to both push you to that level. The last thing that I would say is kind of sort of what Eric said and also what John said. I believe, as a leader, you have to be in the trenches fighting that battle right alongside. If your folks see you in the trenches willing to work just as hard as them, or as harder, I would say, that'll earn you the extra respect that you deserve, that you want, to get you to the next level, to get your team to the next level, et cetera, et cetera. But that would be my only short spiel, Dr. Rob.
Okay, well, thanks, Damon, and I hope your business is picking up with people getting back into the gyms, and we'll hopefully get past this crisis. I'm going to wrap up now. I've got a nice leadership responsibility. I think, Jan, you relate to this. I got a grandchild in the other room, and I'm on duty at 9:15 to watch the 5-month-old. So that's a joyous occasion, but highly responsible. So anyway, I want to thank you all. We'll see you. I'm going to take the summer off. I think we're going to maybe get together informally at some point. Eric has offered his beautiful yard for us to on the Huron River.
Oh, heck yeah, let's do
I
it.
think that might be a nice thing to do maybe next month. So we'll be in touch about that. I appreciate John coming. I appreciate the sponsorships from Zingerman's, from the different companies that have helped out here. And we'll be talking to you soon. Take care, everybody.